Hey, what's going on everyone? Romeo here, a fellow Spanish language learner. In this video, I'm going to share the exact tools that I use to teach myself Spanish as a self-taught Spanish language learner. The first resource that I use is Google Sheets. I start all my studies with a spreadsheet. I like to break down anything that I'm doing into small pieces to make it more manageable. So on this Google Sheet, you can see that I have complete Spanish grammar broken down by each chapter, and I have preset days for the things that I will do certain things. And I have the same process with Spanish short stories. I have a tab for that book, and same thing, I broke down the book into different chapters. The second tool that I use is Google Chrome. The cool thing about Google Chrome is if we go to Spanish short stories for beginners, for example, if you find something that's in Spanish, what Google Chrome has is it has a built-in translator. And so if I highlight a sentence while I'm in Google Chrome and I right-click on that sentence, you can easily translate the sentence into English. So this sentence, Pedrito, un niño travieso de 7 años, I can highlight this sentence, I can right-click, and then I can easily translate into English. And you can also do that with an entire paragraph if you want. Right click, translate into English. Now, that said, one of the questions that can come up is, well, I don't have the PDF versions for my books. How do I get the PDF versions for my book? The easiest way to get a PDF version of your book is to first see if that book already has a PDF format. So if you purchase an audio book, for the most part, a lot of those audiobooks already have PDFs for them. So here's the back end of my library in Audible. And because I purchased Spanish short stories for beginners, it already comes with a PDF. For other books, such as Complete Spanish Step by Step, it doesn't come with a PDF. So what do you do in that state? Well, if you've already purchased the physical copy of the book, I won't feel so bad for sharing this information because it's publicly known. But the thing you need to do is try a search for Complete Spanish Step by Step in your search engine. And you would just say Complete Spanish Step by Step, follow it by PDF, and see what comes up. You may actually find someone that already uploaded a copy of the book to a site like Scribd or any other site. I don't endorse any particular site, but you may be able to find a version of the PDF copy of a book that you already purchased to make it convenient for you to actually have that. I will say you have to make sure that you are careful, because just because a person or someone uploaded a book in a PDF form, it doesn't mean that it's an actual site that's going to take you to that PDF version of the book. So it's not very safe. So use it at your own risk. If you don't want to do a Google search to find a book, then the next thing you can do is you can use McGraw-Hill's site. Now, McGraw-Hill has Practice Makes Perfect and pretty much all the other books that they produce. So you can see if you can get the ebook version of that book. But if you do purchase the ebook version of McGraw-Hill's book, then they're going to require you to download Adobe Digital Editions on your PC or your Mac, and your ebook version of that book is going to open in Adobe Digital Editions and not in Google Chrome. Here's what your book would look like if you use Adobe Digital Edition, but I don't use it because the software is pretty slow. But addition to that is not like the PDF version of the book, in which you can actually use Google Chrome to highlight everything and then right click and translate into something that you want to translate into. But you can at least copy a sentence, and after you copy the sentence, you can throw it into something like Google Translate or Spanish Dictionary, another tool that I'm going to show you. Okay, the next tool that I use is I use Google Docs. The way I use Google Docs is I take the PDF version of one of the stories that I'm working on. So in this case, here's chapter 2 of the short stories for beginners. And I take what I understand the meaning of the Spanish sentence or paragraph to be, and I translate this story into its English component. And so that's how I use Google Docs. But then the next thing that I do, once I get, let's say, a story into English, if I wanted to, I need to confirm whether or not my understanding of the Spanish into English was accurate. So for that, the next tool that I use is Google Translate. The reason why I use Google Translate is because it gives me a quick translation from Spanish into English to check for my understanding. So again, here's the story that I use to translate from the Spanish into English. And so now if I wanted to check for my understanding later after this document is built, then I will go to Google Translate and I will type the Spanish version of this sentence to see if I get something that's translated very similar to the message that is trying to be conveyed. But the trick to using Google Translate Spanish is you have to have this input tool open and you have to have the Spanish keyboard open. And when you have the Spanish keyboard open, that allows you to create accents in the Spanish language. So for example, if I want to say Anna awoke very early that day, with the Spanish keyboard open, I can write Ana despertó. But the trick, again, with the Spanish keyboard open is I have to first type a quote and then the O, and that automatically converts the word despertó into despertó. Ana despertó muy temprano ese día. Again, quote, IA, period. And I go through the entire document by typing out the Spanish version and putting that into English. But as far as Google Translate goes, that's about as far as I go to use it while I'm doing my self-studying. And that's because it has limitations. Let's say I wanted to know how to say the word day in Spanish, and all I knew was the word day. In this case, Google Translate is good at giving you the exact definition in Spanish, and it also gives you the article if you look deep enough, and it gives you even more translations. But what I prefer to use, if I wanted to know just the translation for a similar word, I use Spanish Dictionary. To use Spanish Dictionary, you just type in the word day, and when you use Spanish Dictionary to get your word or the meaning of the word, now it's immediately apparent what the article is. The reason why the articles are important will become more apparent when you study indirect and direct objects. But not only does Spanish Dictionary give you the articles, it quickly gives you more information about the word that you put into the translator. It quickly gives you the definition and the general definition. So for example, el día says it's a period of time or the day of the week, the daylight hours, and then it gives you multiple examples on how you can use that word. And in this case, it even gives you phrases. But let's say you had a verb that you wanted to put in it. Hablar. Let's put in the word hablar. If you put in the word hablar, it tells you exactly what it means in English to speak. And just like the word day, it not only just tells you what it means literally to speak, it gives you more depth of what it actually means. It means to articulate words or to converse in this second definition or to have a conversation. And it quickly gives you more examples down here below and phrases in which you can use the word hablar. But on top of that, it gives you the conjugations and it gives you all the different conjugations that you need if you needed to conjugate the word hablar. If you wanted to say it in the present tense, or the preterite tense, or the imperfect tense, the conditional tense, all the different conjugations are quickly accessible for you using SpanishDictionary.com. Another way you can use Spanish Dictionary is when you come across a word that you have doubts about and you don't know how to say it yourself. Well, what's cool about it is if you click on this speaker, you can hear the pronunciation of the word. So if you're not confident that hablar is hablar versus hablar, you can click on the speaker and you can get the pronunciation of the word.
Hablar. Hablar.
And I use this feature all the time when I come across words that I'm not quite sure how to say. In addition to the features that I've already showed you using SpanishDictionary.com, if you have the premium version of SpanishDictionary.com, Another tool that I use and I recommend others use is the translation feature where you are actually using their premium voice translation. So in this case, if I wanted to actually translate this entire document into Spanish and check that I'm actually saying a specific sentence right, then I use the premium translation tool. So for Anna awoke very early that day, I would say that in Spanish using the translation tool, and that translation tool will give me an output, and I hope that that output translates it into what I actually wanted to say in English. So here's an example. Use the translation tool. Ana despertó muy temprano ese día.
Anna woke up very early the day.
And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And that's how I use the premium translation tools. And I specifically use those tools. Another tool that I use is Quizlet. And I use Quizlet for my flashcards. So I build out my flashcards. And then for a given set of flashcards, let's go into Complete Grammar, the book that I'm using now. I built out flashcards for, let's say, for chapter 1. If I go into any of these flashcards, what I like about Quizlet is, let's start with the useful vocabulary. Birthday. Here are the flashcards that I built, and I use Quizlet to check myself on some of the vocabulary. Some of the words I know, some of them I don't, but I'm building out my words in Quizlet. And the cool thing about Quizlet is it have several options that you can use. If you go into the settings, once the flashcards are built, you can turn on text to speech, and you can change whether or not you want the English word or the Spanish word to appear first. For me, I use the English words first because I think in English naturally. And so if I see the word birthday, I want to make sure that I say the Spanish word correctly. El cumpleaños.
El cumpleaños.
And I get my answer. But the other cool thing about Quizlet is if you have the mobile app, once you go into flashcard mode, there's a play button down here. So let's take off the track progress. And if you just hit the play icon, these words are going to autoplay. And this is good if you're just driving in your car and you wanted to listen to your flashcards while you're driving in the car or working out or doing something similar, maybe cleaning or doing housework. The last tool that I use every day, which will need a video on its own, is a actual chat assistant. And I use Grok. A lot of people use Chat GPT, but there are so many things that you can use a AI assistant for. So definitely pick up an AI assistant. Just off the top of my head, I'll show you a couple of things that I use my AI assistant for. So if you have a doubt, for example, let's say you come across the word day in Spanish and you want to know which word should you use. Should you use the word la jornada or should you use the word dia? So if you are focusing on a specific dialect, let's say Spain, you can ask your AI assistant which word is best used in Spain. El día or la hornada. And you'll get an answer. All right, so el día refers to 24 hours a day. La jornada refers to work shift or specific activities. So one way you can use your AI assistant is to clear up any doubts that you would normally use a online teacher for. So anytime I have any type of doubts, I go to my AI assistant and I just ask it. And it's pretty good at giving answers that you can just drill into. So yeah, I know this was a long video, but hopefully you picked up tools that you can absolutely use to help yourself as you go on through this self-teaching Spanish journey. I know I could go much deeper into the use of all of these tools, but I don't want to do that for this video, but stay tuned and I will possibly do that in a future video. But enough about what I do. I want to know the tools that you use. So put those in the comments and maybe they can help not only me, but others that come across this video that want to know about them. As always, if you found this video helpful, give this video a like. And if you want more practical use and practical advice on how to go about your language learning journey, or just want to learn from the things that I do, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And until the next time, peace.